Hello, algoritmers. It's Friday night and it's ladies' night, and court is back in session. My name is Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. I'll be serving as your judge, and you, the viewers, will be serving as the jury. As you know, the Court of Public Opinion is a place where you, the people's voices, can and will be heard. So be sure to jump in that chat if you have any questions about the law, or if you have any questions about the cases that we're covering. All right, please don't forget to hit that like button. Also, hit that subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, hit that share button. Invite some friends to come over here and learn the law and listen to all the juicy details from our legal beagles. Don't forget to drop down in those comments. You know we love those comments. And tonight, let me introduce our two female legal beagles. We have with us the fiery civil attorney, Shatan Turner. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion.
Hey, Your Honor. Hey, algoritmers.
Straight from Eddie V's, eating sea bass and sucking down some martinis. Welcome, Counselor Turner. All right, and also joining us tonight, once again, welcome back, entertainment lawyer, Ashley Valenzuela. Ashley, welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. Uh-oh, we can't hear you, Ashley.
You're muted, Ash.
Thank you for having me, Judge.
Absolutely. All right, we got some very interesting cases today and can't wait to get to the bottom of it. First up, we have Blac Chyna. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. Blac Chyna is facing significant legal issues based on the allegations brought forward by her boyfriend, twin Hector, who is suing her for physical abuse. The claims in the lawsuit, which makes it so interesting, is that it raised both civil and potentially criminal concerns. I'm going to throw to you, Attorney Turner. Talk to me so the civil assault and battery is what part, and what part is criminal?
Well, so there is a separate civil action for protections for abuse. And it was designed to streamline protections for victims so that they didn't have to go through the same rigor that you have to do to prove a criminal case. Remember, criminal cases have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And It was determined back in the 90s when these civil actions were created that this criminal process might be too rigorous for these cases because a lot of times they're unwitnessed and you can't, overcome that hurdle. So they came up with this civil process that in large part sounds like criminal, right? Protection from abuse. You can get protection orders. You can actually get people to get their firearms taken away. You can get your children to be safe and have restrictions for visitation. You can do a lot of the things that are accomplished through criminal, but they made it a civil proceeding because the burden of proof was less. The first step for it is an ex parte proceeding where you can get a temporary protection from abuse order where you don't confront the accused
user
at all. Right. Yeah. And you still get it. And it lasts for a period of time. And then there's a permanent process where they determine whether there needs to be a permanent protection from abuse order. And at that time, the accused has a right to be heard.
All right, so this is what's interesting to me in this particular case. Hector is allegedly seeking medical expenses, pain and suffering, and potentially punitive damages. What exactly are punitive damages, Attorney Valenzuela?
So punitive damages are added when there's something that is malicious. And what that means is it happened with the intent to cause harm to the other party.
All right, and so so that's on the civil side. So on the civil side, he can seek damages for both civil and emotional injuries.
Yes, so the emotional distress piece here, that is something that's going to have to meet a couple of different elements. You have to prove that Blac Chyna's conduct was outrageous. You have to prove that she intended to cause him emotional distress, or that she acted with what's called reckless disregard to the fact that he was going to experience this emotional distress. And then you also have to prove that the damages that you sustained were severe to your emotional well-being. You're having, PTSD, nightmares. You have to take leave of absence from work. You're having PTSD, different things like that. And of course, you have to link it to the conduct on behalf of Blac Chyna causing it.
Got it. Now, Bailiff, can I see that picture of his after being beat up, the picture of his assault? I mean, come on.
Oh God, that breaks my heart.
That, you know, what I find so interesting here is that, you know, this is a young man who I say it's very courageous, because I mean, if you look at the statistics around men that actually come forward and claim any type of domestic violence, it's like barely, like single digits. It's like really sad. So I really do applaud him for having the courage to come forward. Now, but the question here for me is, there are two things, because he's also filing for intentional infliction of emotional distress, which is kind of what attorney Ashley just touched on. But this is what I want to ask you, attorney Shatan Turner. You remember Rob Kardashian, he had multiple lawsuits, right? Remember, he sued her for assault and battery, claiming she attempted to strangle him in home courts and all this type of behavior. Would that affect this young man's case as well? Meaning he's saying basically the same thing. Here's another suit against her. Does the law look at previous lawsuits and say, okay, there could be a pattern here?
No, generally not. But you also have what we talked about with the P. Diddy thing, which is a credibility problem, right?
Okay.
I did not do the research on Rob Kardashian's cases, but this is part of the reason we're even talking about this, is because of the Kardashian effect, because she used to be Kardashian's woman, right? Like, let's not even pretend like anybody would care if this was Blac Chyna, the stripper, I think she used to be, and she just beat boyfriend up, right? So this is all part of the Kardashian effect. But if she wasn't convicted or found liable in those cases that Rob Kardashian asserted, they have no bearing on this case. So like, we can think like, oh, it looks like she's got a problem, but she was successful in that case. Now, what Rob could do if he was feeling particularly generous is serve as a witness in this case with this current guy and say, look, she beat me up too. And then evidence presented de novo in the case, and it could just be considered on its own merit. But the fact that he happened to sue her and was unsuccessful on similar charges should have no bearing in this case.
Got it. Now, when does it cross over to criminal charges? Because I think this is very important for all of our algoriters and the people that are listening who are in domestic violence situations, because, you know, not only civilly can she be held liable, but, you know, she can also potentially have criminal charges, and that has to be brought on by law enforcement. What metrics do they use to say, okay, we want to investigate this further?
Your Honor, here's the thing. For the algoriters who want a lesson, do not beat people's ass and think you can get away with it. You are screwing them or not. That is the lesson for the algoriters.
Wait a minute, whether you're screwing them or not.
Yeah, because screwing them gets it to be a domestic violence case, but there's no license to just beat people up who you happen to be intimate with. So the process that I described before.
That's not even funny.
Don't get confused. Don't get confused. But yeah, the process that I described initially was talking about the streamline that they created so that people could get relief from domestic violence situations. But it by no means precludes someone who's been a victim from asserting a criminal charge against the person they're involved with. He would have to go to the police and initiate a charge, and then it would be evaluated on the merits.
Got it. Okay, so let's go and talk about this elephant in the room. The mother has come forward. Tokyo Tony has come forward and said that she did it. Okay, so if that's the case, could I know, right? If that's the case, could Blac Chyna in turn sue this young man for defamation?
No, I mean, she could, but I wouldn't advise it, because here's why. She must have been home when he got beat up in his sleep, right? She was sleeping next to him when he got beat up, and he reasonably believed that it was her. He didn't know her mama snuck in the room and beat him up with a baseball bat and like made sure that he couldn't see who it was. So he made a mistake, right? In order to prove defamation, you have to show that it's a lie. And the fact that he relied on information that he had good cause to believe would likely be a defense for him, and she wouldn't be able to show that he intentionally lied. Now, from a law school, like if I was back teaching law school, I would give people credit for who called it defamation, because it would still be untrue if she didn't do it. But I actually think that her Mama Tokyo, like, what kind of name is that anyway? No offense. Like, people can identify it however they want, but she is likely lying to protect her daughter. That's just my 2 cents. I could be wrong. Allegedly, I think she's lying to protect her daughter.
Okay.
No, I definitely agree. And then also you have to take into account, like, when was the last instance? When did this happen? Because the statute of the limitations comes into play. Assault and battery has a 1-year limitation for criminal. So if that was the case, it would have passed already. But for felony battery, the statute of limitations is 3 years. So if Tokyo or Blac Chyna did this within the last 3 years, he could still very well press, or the state could press those felony battery charges.
But when did this? I'm not sure when this happened, but I do know this: the California law does allow for both civil and criminal remedies, right? Without based on the statute of limitations. But I thought in this, wait a minute, let me see. We don't have anybody that's really good. I mean, that knows. Do you know the law in the state of California as it relates to domestic violence, civil and criminal?
Wait, we're gonna object, because did Your Honor just shame us, Ashley? Did he just
right?
Was really good. Like,
take a shot for that.
Because first of all, Ashley, I'm just saying, Ashley is an entertainment attorney, and you're I know you're a civil attorney, but I wanted to know specifically with the California laws, because I do know that in California, I read that you are allowed, right, victims of domestic violence, that regardless, and this is something that I want our listeners to understand, that you can pursue both civil and criminal charges. So some people don't do the civil side. Some people just, get a public defendant or whatever, or, and they go and they say, okay, I want to drop the criminal charges because I don't want my boyfriend or my girlfriend to get in trouble, but you can still pursue them civilly, correct?
Yeah, it depends. Honestly, it's like completely up to, unfortunately, I have personal experience with this here in California. It's up to the victim of the abuse. But it does come down to the statute of limitations, because there's a 1 year to press charges for assault and battery, even if it's domestic violence. So if that passes, you have an extra year to file a civil lawsuit. So you have 2 years to file civilly. Yes. And 1 year to press criminal charges. But if that year passes, or even at the beginning, you can choose to do both, or you can choose one or the other. But you have to be aware, if the incident happened on January 1st of 2024, you only have until January 1st, 2025 to press charges. But even if that passes and you still want to pursue it, you're ready to move forward, and you want to fight it in court, you can go for a civil suit like Hector's doing right now.
Got it. No,
okay, and he's a wonderful, wonderful young man. I do want to say that he's a wonderful young man, and I'm so sorry this happened.
Wow.
One thing too to point out, Your Honor, what I was saying initially, and I may have been too flippant about it when I was talking about how you can't just beat up people that you're involved with. The civil process is a victim-focused process.
Got it.
This process is designed to keep the victim safe efficiently without having them jump through the same hurdles that they have to jump through for the criminal process. The criminal process has all of the due process protections for the accused as you would have in other criminal processes, which means that there isn't an automatic, I won't say it's an automatic assumption, but for temporary from abuse orders on the civil side, the first instance, pretty much anybody who goes to the courthouse to file one will get one. That's just how the process works, because it's designed to protect the victim. The criminal process, as Attorney Ashley indicated, you have to get an attorney, you have to have the statute of limitations, and then it's designed to figure out whether or not you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this happened. It's a lesser standard on the civil process. So that also is why people go different routes. Because, your goal is to be safe, then you do the civil route first.
Got it. Okay, last question for both of you guys. And like Abby NYC, the MM family said, watch it, Al. Don't sleep on these ladies. I don't plan on it. And Jay, you're just joining. We're covering Blac Chyna right now, sweetheart. So this is my question. And, I'm just thinking out loud. If, because a lot of women drop the charges because they may have a child with the man, or the man may drop the charges because they have a child with the person. If you, in a lot of cases, they drop the charges because the person, the abuser, has multiple offenses. This could put them back in jail. It could change their home, or it could change their ability to get child support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So my question is, if you don't want to bring the criminal charges against the person that abused you because you're afraid of the ripple effect that it'll have on your family, or on the abuser's ability to still contribute to the family, can you still go the civil route without getting the person in so much legal trouble? Do you understand the question? Do you guys understand it?
I do. Like, is there a benefit to the family from going one route to another? Right. I mean, now we're going down the combination of like practical consequences of legal processes. Mm-hmm. So if someone is convicted of a criminal offense, that can preclude them from having certain types of jobs, right? And right. So sometimes you find that like people are involved in relationships with, I'll just say men, because Brian's not here. So yeah, with men who are in law enforcement, right? If they get convicted of these crimes and they can't do their job, and if you're dependent on this person for your livelihood and to feed your family, then that would be a deterrent to you. So there are practical considerations that do influence what people pursue. Now, the protection from abuse process does not show up on criminal background checks because it's not a criminal process, but it does show up on some broader background checks. And so that might influence what people choose. And they may have one belief like, oh, they'll never know about it because it's civil, and they might be wrong. So the lesson for algoriters is this: keep yourself safe. Know that the law is there to protect you if you're a victim, and have no confidence that if you choose one path over the other, that somehow that's going to allow you to still get that check. If your goal is to just get that check, then you might have to compromise your safety. I don't recommend it, but that's a reality.
I know, that seems so sad to me. All right, everybody, we spent a lot of time on that. We hope that touched or taught you algoriters something about the process. Next up, Lorenzo Gordon. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. This is British Williams' ex from Basketball Wives. And they also, if you don't remember, she was sentenced in December and went in on February for similar charges. And they also did marriage boot camp together. Gordon's admission of guilt in a PPP and a EIDL loan fraud scheme has led him to possible significant time in the slammer. Attorney Shatan Turner, talk to me. Now, this is what we understand right now on his case. He's got fraudulent application for government loans as a charge. He has wire fraud as a charge, bank fraud as a charge, money laundering as a charge. Who knew just by, I guess my question, who knew by just lying on an application to get a loan that it could lead to money laundering, bank fraud, and wire fraud? Can you explain to us why that is?
I wish Attorney Redwine was here, because she would say like that commercial, he's going to jail, right? But yeah, so anyway, the you get all of those charges because this was a federal process, right? And so the lesson to algoriters is that when you choose to lie on governmental forms, there can be consequences. And the consequences are these multi-layered charges that he was, he's been accused of and that he pled guilty to. So the thing is that, as we saw with the Maurizio from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills a couple of weeks ago, like, they're going after people for these pandemic relief programs because the money was so easy to get that I think a lot of people lied and they thought they were going to get over for it. But there were restrictions on how they were supposed to get the money, right? It was supposed to be used for payroll. It was supposed to be used for other expenses for legitimate companies. It was not supposed to be used for fictitious companies. And so that's why he pled guilty, because once you start going that you were filling out a form for things that didn't exist, you knew you were lying. There's no argument that you weren't. And so it's unfortunate for him, but
So what if, just I hypothetically, when you're applying for a mortgage or when you're applying for a credit card and say, I may have said I made $1 million a year when I only made 550. I gotta be aware that if they can prove that that's a lie, that's fraud.
Right. I mean, so, I've said this before on the show. You have sex lies, you have videotape, you have cheating, you have lies, and then there's that line from like Citizen Kane, I think it is, where you have lies, damn lies, and statistics. Whenever you are lying and it's a governmental form, when you get caught, you are screwed. That is advice from me as a friend, algoriters. You can get a lawyer that can try to help you find some defenses, but the bottom line is you are screwed, because once the lie is proven, you have no defense. The law is actually harsher to people who lie than they are for people who do other types of intentional misconduct.
Okay, that makes sense. So what is he looking at? Like what's the, because the
10 years.
10 years?
10 years and 250,000 and or both.
And is that, let me ask this question. Could he negotiate to pay it back? If he gave the money back, would he still have to face the criminal and the criminal charges?
He's already pled guilty, so it is what it is.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like with these new, I mean, maybe they're not too new to the PPP loan fraud fiasco being unraveled. I feel like they're going to start with these bigger, notable celebrities like Mauricio, like him, and make an example out of them, because this is just the beginning of uncovering all the PPP fraud. I'm telling you, it's scammers and frauders and all the other things. Like PPP was a huge thing, but I think with these bigger cases that are coming out now, they're going to use them as an example, because everybody else, it hasn't even been caught or addressed yet. These are just the big guys.
Speaking of fraud, Rudy Giuliani, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. His disbarment in Washington, following his earlier disbarment in New York, has found its way in the Court of Public Opinion. His disbarment and loss of license is due to the false claims he made about the 2020 election and standing with Donald Trump and all of his madness. Now, I don't know a lot about you guys' license, but I do know that they come with a significant professional conduct rules. Attorney Shaitan Turner, talk to me about how did he get disbarred? Talk to me about the disbarment in one state. Did it lead to another state? And also talk to me about why did he not, because they said in Washington that they gave him the ability to appeal it. The DC courts of appeal gave him the ability to appeal it, but he didn't answer the appeal. Do you think that's what led to this fast disbarment?
I think that Rudy Giuliani, he attached his horse to a wagon that was sinking, and it just continues to sink. Now, not to be political, although I'm sure some people could guess the side of the political aisle that I stand on, because my store is running for president. But that aside, right? The insurrection was a total hot mess that was a result of the election that happened that President Trump at the time would not accept the results for. Lawyers are held to a higher standard. And that's what this Rudy Giuliani thing is intended to promote. So when I was in law school, and Ash was in law school, the one thing I remember from professional responsibility is, since I took it so long ago, is you're a lawyer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to remember that when you work at a law firm or you have your own law practice, because you're always in the trenches and you're actively defending clients and you're involved in the legal process. What happens when you're in political roles like Rudy Giuliani, or even in corporate roles like people who work in
High
corporations,
profile.
right? Yeah, is that you forget that you're subject to those same rules. So what I suspect happened with Giuliani is that he got caught up with President Trump. He started drinking the Kool-Aid, selling the story, and forgot that as an officer of the court, he had an obligation to promote only truthful information.
Ah, gotcha.
Yes. And he started acting like the non-lawyers who were just saying what they were told to say by their client, right? Or by the talent in this case. So when he got disbarred in New York, it created a cascading effect. The Washington disbarment was reciprocal of New York. And one of two things happened, which is why he didn't appeal. Either he didn't open his mail, he's just tired, right? Because he's kind of old now and he likely isn't going to practice anymore. And 3, he may have made a conscious decision that it wasn't worth the effort or the money, because now he has to pay lawyers to defend him. And he didn't think it was worth it because
worth the squeeze. I want to chime in here. Abby, NYC, the MM family. I agree with you. I lived in New York City. I just recently moved there, but I have lived in New York City for 22 years. I was there when he was considered America's mayor. His legacy is ruined now, but he was considered America's mayor, how he handled the 9/11 attacks. And for a long time, he was considered one of the best mayors to ever do it in the city of New York. Only for his legacy to be diminished like this, it's really, 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 well, not sad to watch, because he attached himself to the wrong person, but it's unfortunate. Now, this is what I want to talk really quickly with you, Attorney Valenzuela. From what I understand, this is the most severe thing that can happen to a lawyer, to be disbarred. Like and it's like you can never practice again in that state. Are you allowed, though, to go to other states and try to practice when you've been disbarred and loss of law license like Rudy Giuliani?
Oops, sorry, I was on mute. So it depends on the state. It depends on the reason why you were disbarred. For example, Giuliani, he's been now permanently disbarred in DC. So there's no way for him to get back into it. Other states are much more lenient than some. So there is a chance he could go somewhere else and get his license in that state. You'd have to go through all these hoops. You have to jump through a lot of professional responsibility and ethics requirements. For example, whenever you become an attorney, you have to take a professional responsibility exam in whichever state, and you have to pass it. And what that also includes, that a lot of people don't know that lawyers have to go through, is called a character and fitness test. And the character and fitness goes through your every address you ever lived in, your mental health, your criminal background, your credit, your taxes, everything that is personal that can show your character and the fitness for you to represent other people, handle their money, and be a trusted representative. Those things are going to have to be addressed and evaluated by the state. Like Florida, for example, it's almost impossible to get through the Florida bar with mental health or substance abuse or those types of issues. So if you have these type of criminal charges, or not criminal charges, if you have these types of disbarments in a different state, it's likely that in places like Florida, who are much more harsh with their requirements, will never let you in for admission.
Gotcha. All right. Speaking of dirty deeds in the city of New York City, Eric, the New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. Oh my goodness, what's going on with the New York mayors? And he's African American. The charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams are serious, and they involved multiple federal offenses. Multiple. Like, he's got bribery, he's got wire fraud, he's got conspiracy, he's got soliciting campaign contributions for foreign nationals. Attorney Shatan Turner, tell me, how serious is it? Because, and this is what I've always wanted to know, these public officials like Trump, are charged with stuff like this. But even though they're charged with stuff like this, and in Trump's case, found guilty of felonies, over 30 felonies, they are still allowed, he's still allowed to be the mayor of the city, and Trump is still allowed to run for the president of the United States. Explain to me what's going on here, and why is that the case?
And the other question that you didn't ask at the end, but you were thinking, and it was implied, is what about the kids, right? You have these people who are breaking the law without consequence, and they are getting the things that people aspire to, the keys to the kingdom, if you will. Like, what about the kids? So in this case, so we have to remember Mayor Adams is innocent until proven guilty. So unlike President Trump, who is a convicted felon,
okay,
Mr. Adams is not. He has been indicted, he has been accused, but he has not been convicted of anything, and he's not pled guilty. He actually pled not guilty. And so in this case, there is still a matter in dispute to determine whether or not he's actually committed the charges that have been presented to him. And what his lawyers say, and his lawyer's like, you know what? He ain't do it. This is all another attempt to take a good black man down. And he didn't say those exact words. Those are my words. But what his lawyer, I'm always good at using my own words. But his lawyer used as a comparison what happened to Brian Benjamin, who was the lieutenant governor in New York, another black man, someone that I've met a few times and was engaged to a friend of mine. Nice guy, but he got caught up too. His charges were dropped, but they have since been brought against him again. But the lawyer was making the position when he referenced Brian Benjamin. He's like, look, remember what happened to him. He was making the case that, hey, they're just going after black men in power, and we all need to pay attention.
You know what? Yeah. And that's okay. Let's pay attention then. I like that conversation. Let's leave it right there, because according to what I read about Adams' case, they are trying to permanently ban him from public office. I'm still just in my head trying to figure out, he's only the mayor of the city. It might be the greatest city in the world, but he's only the mayor of the city. How can Trump be charged with felonies and not be banned from public office? However, Mayor Adams can, he can get a prison time, he can do fines, and they can ban him. How does that happen? Why can't someone explain this to me? Because I'm always just confused how Trump is able to get off, get charged, and still run for president. Help me here.
I mean, Stormy Daniels didn't necessarily say that he could get off, but President Trump, it's Friday night, Al. We got to go for the joke. President Trump's convictions were all related to his business dealings for Trump Enterprises, right?
Okay.
What's going against Mayor Adams, these charges about him engaging with foreign nationals and trying to influence foreign elections, and what they have accused him of is putting the interests of those foreign nationals above his constituents. That is those are really significant charges, which would implicate his ability to serve in public office. Trump so far has not been convicted of anything related to the insurrection, although he is facing charges about that.
Got it.
That relates to his ability to lead, and that could potentially result in something related to him potentially no longer being able to serve in public life. So that's the difference.
All right. See, I love it. I love it. All right, everybody, throw those fire emojis in that chat for that fiery civil attorney, Shatan Turner, teaching us the law tonight. Also, don't forget to put in that crown for our legal queen, Ashley Valenzuela, and throw in a fax emoji for me for the fax guy. All right, don't forget to hit that like button, that subscribe button, that notification button, turn it on, and jump in these comments if you have any questions. Next up, and this one is wild to me, and I can't wait to break this down with you ladies. Devin Haney. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. He's filed a lawsuit against Ryan Garcia, and it centers on the claim of battery. I'm so confused. Aren't they boxers? Aren't they supposed to beat each other up? But his claims of battery and fraud related to their April 2024 fight at the Barclays Center. He's saying that there's a battery claim, there's a fraud claim, there's a legal justification for lawsuit claim. Attorney Valenzuela, you're our entertainment attorney. Do you even know? Because in the chambers, Attorney Valenzuela guys asked me, what type of sport are they in?
Listen, I know they're fighting, but I didn't know if it was boxing, MMA, UFC. I'm just a girl. I'm just a girl. Okay. But I do know that he got the hands from Garcia. Okay. There's 3 charges here. 2 of them are self-explanatory. Fraud, he used drugs, performance enhancing drugs in a professional fight. Garcia,
okay.
And he used those drugs. That was obviously, everybody knows in professional sports, you cannot use, steroids, other things like that to enhance your performance and your abilities. So that's his fraud allegation. Breach of contract. He signed a contract with the company, with the fight. He signed a contract essentially with Haney. We're going to fight and we're going to do this the right way. And we're going to get paid for it. And we're going to go about our business. Well, if you guys remember, Haney got knocked down. He got knocked down more than he would have, he's alleging, than if Garcia was not on these drugs. So that's where we get the battery charge, because he signed this contract. He consented to fighting sober, clean, strong Ryan Garcia. We knew that. But he did not consent to fighting somebody who was on these drugs, PECs, I think. He never consented to fighting somebody that was on those drugs. And it's his claim that if he knew that, if that was the case, he would have never signed up to fight him and it would have never happened.
You know what? This sounds like a little bit of crybaby to me. Like, what are his professional gains for? What are his professional gains for bringing this forward? Like, does his win loss, change? Obviously, it would. I guess no, it wouldn't. Right? You're suing outside of the court, so your win loss wouldn't change. Like, what are the gains here, Shaitan?
They already switched it. Sorry to interrupt you, Your Honor. They already took the win away from the person who was using the drugs, and they made it a no contest. So there's no longer a win-loss issue and dispute. So that's not why he's asserting it.
It still makes his record ugly, though.
Wants money.
Money.
He wants money. Yes, he wants money. Because as Attorney Ashley indicated, Attorney Venezuela indicated, is if he's successful here, he gets monetary damages from Garcia, right? It's not just a function of what he got from the boxing commission. It's a function of what he can get from Garcia personally. So if he can show that he, and battery is only an unconsented touching, right? So when he went into the ring, he was agreeing to fight someone based on the established rules. Once the other boxer decided to take this performing enhancing drug, he flipped the script, right? He interjected a fact that the other boxer didn't agree to, and that's why he's contending it. So the fraud is that he used the drugs and still had the fight without disclosing it. But of course you don't disclose it because you're cheating. And so when you're cheating, you don't tell people you're cheating. That's the whole point. You do sneaky shit because you don't want to get caught. But then once he's in the ring with him and he gets hit, he's alleging it's an unconsented touching because the only touching that he agreed to was touching under the rules.
Oh, got you. Because I was reading when I was reading this, it said that Garcia was striking below the safe zones or whatever, a couple of times and other stuff. Let me ask the obvious question here. Is this civil or criminal?
Right now it's civil. Yeah,
Okay.
there is also criminal battery, but this particular matter is a civil action.
Okay, got
But
it.
he still has time to bring those charges if he
Yeah.
really wanted to for the battery.
Right, because it's like it's so fresh, right?
But I think that's kind of uncharted territory in a criminal battery case because he was on drugs and it's a contractual situation.
Yeah. What about
That
the
would be an
contract?
interesting criminal case.
This
It
is
would.
going to be interesting. I want to follow this. I want to follow this
But
because moving
oh, I'm
pieces.
sorry, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I wanted to note, like, it didn't necessarily hurt his record because it was a no contest, but it did mess it up because if he would have won, he would have been 32-0. But now he was 31-1, but now he has a no contest. So it's 31-0 and 1 no contest. So it didn't necessarily hurt him in terms of his record, but it did make it ugly because
it make it mess up
to deal with that.
dollars. Okay, gotcha.
He's no longer like undefeated. He can't make that argument.
Yes.
Technically,
okay.
yeah.
Who knew that my little legal beagles could break it down like this? All right, everybody, that concludes tonight's show. This is a part of the show that we take questions, but we don't have any questions from our viewers, so we're going to go straight to the verdict. All right, first up. Ooh, this is going to be tough, ladies. Let's see where you fall on the line of public opinion. Blac Chyna, is she guilty or not guilty of beating twin Hector? Bad. Attorney Ashley Valenzuela, what say you, entertainment attorney?
Lock her up. She guilty.
Ooh.
Protect twin Hector at all costs.
All right, attorney Shatan Turner, what say you?
The picture is so damaging. I gotta say somebody's guilty. I don't know if it's Blac Chyna. It could be Tokyo, but somebody did this to the man. Yeah.
Right. You know what? And I have always, if you guys ever watched my show, TGIF, I always sided with Blac Chyna. I just saw this different side of Blac Chyna when I met with her, when I would interview with her. And then after, meeting her and interviewing with her and saw her go on this journey of changing, I was really, really in her corner because I believed it and I still believe it. So I have to say, in the court of public opinion, it's the picture. It's the picture that's the most damaging thing because, I really do feel like she's on this journey of, changing her ways. But in this case, in the court of public opinion, I'm Al and I'm the judge. And we're going to have to find Blac Chyna guilty. Or like attorney Turner said, somebody over there is guilty because look at the man's face. It's the proof to show that some type of battery did occur. All right, next up, Lorenzo Gordon. Is he guilty or not guilty of PPP and EIDL loan fraud? Attorney Valenzuela, what say you?
Guilty. All
right, Attorney Shatan Turner.
Yeah, he pled guilty. He looks guilty. Look at those shifty eyes in that picture.
I'm Al, the judge here in the court of public opinion. And unfortunately, Lorenzo, I'm going to find you guilty. Guilty is charged. Next up, Rudy Giuliani being disbarred. Is he guilty or not guilty for the false claims in the 2020 election? Attorney Shatan Turner, what say you?
He's guilty. And I feel bad because I loved him as America's mayor. Even though he was a Republican, he did a lot of great things for New York City. But this might be his karma for getting those vendors off the street because they've been mad.
Hey, not only the vendors, but also the prostitutes. Right. He really turned around 42nd Street. All right, Attorney Valenzuela, what say you? Guilty or not guilty?
He's definitely guilty for making us look bad.
Right. Exactly. All right. I'm Al, and I'm the judge in the court of public opinion. Not only are you guilty and should be disbarred, but you need to find a new hair coloring because that picture of you with your dye coming down your face just proves to me that you're even more guilty. All right. Next up, another New York City mayor is in the court of public opinion. Eric Adams. Is he guilty or not guilty for these serious multiple federal offenses. Attorney Shatan Turner, what say you?
I'm going to say he's not guilty until he's proven guilty. Yeah, this is complicated. I hope he turns out okay because of this.
Right. Attorney Valenzuela, what are your thoughts?
I'll give him guilty until proven as well. I mean, not guilty.
Not guilty. All right. I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in the court of public opinion. And I'm going to side on the side of both of our lawyers. I'm going to find him not guilty until innocent until proven guilty. Come on, brother. Come on, please. Please don't be guilty. All right. Last up, is Ryan Garcia guilty or not guilty for bad sportsmanship, I guess, lying, cheating, and ruining Devin Haney's perfect match record? Attorney Valenzuela, what say you?
The man's guilty.
Shatan Turner, what is your verdict?
Oh, yeah, he's guilty. He cheated. He's guilty.
All right, I'm Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. We're finding Ryan Garcia guilty as charged. All right, everyone, that concludes another.
But he is handsome, though. Like, we didn't give him credit for that. We talked about it before. I'm just saying, like, you look the fine. Get delivered from your ways, Garcia, and come home with action.
You are a sucker for an attractive man. I promise you,
I
are.
am. It's my problem. It's my weakness.
All right, everybody. This concludes today's session in the Court of Public Opinion. Don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, invite some friends over here and check out the show. All right. Be sure to turn on your notifications and have a great weekend. Court is now adjourned.